All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are tackling a really big word with an even bigger meaning: theology. It's a term a lot of us have probably heard thrown around, but what does it actually mean to do theology? Let's find out.
So let's start with the most obvious question. When I say the word theology, what's the first thing that pops into your head? What's the definition you've always heard?
I bet you thought something like, oh, that's easy, it's the study of God. And look, that's a great place to start, but it's not the whole picture. In fact, just sticking with that simple answer can be pretty misleading. We need to dig a little deeper. Okay, to really get this, we've got to go back to its roots. The word comes from two Greek terms. First, you've got theos, which means God, simple enough. But then you have logos, and this word is so rich. It can mean study, but it also means discourse, logic, or reason. So a much better translation is something like a rational discourse about God. It's all about thinking and speaking about God in a structured, reasoned way.
Now, here's something that might surprise you. The word theology isn't actually in the Bible. It popped up in Christian conversations much later. Around 200 AD, an early church father named Origen was the first one to really use it in a Christian sense, and he called it this sublime and majestic activity. Then, 100 years later, the historian Eusebius really brought it into the mainstream, making it a common term in the church.
So we've established it's way more than just a simple definition. This isn't just, randomly thinking about God. Theology is actually a structured discipline. You could even say it has rules of the game that you have to follow.
Theologian Charles Ryrie laid this out really well with what he called 3 core pillars. First, theology has to be intelligible. This means it's based on logic and reason. It's something you can understand. Second, it requires explanation. This is huge. It means doing deep dives into the original texts, a process called exegesis, to really figure out what they mean. And third, for Christian theology specifically, it is fundamentally Bible-based. The Bible is the primary source material, the foundation for everything. Now, to really get that second point, the whole explanation and exegesis thing, let me throw something kind of weird at you. Imagine someone leans in close and says this to you.
It sounds absolutely bizarre, right? But believe it or not, in some ancient cultures, the liver, or sometimes the kidneys, was considered the center of your deepest emotions, the way we think of the heart today. And this is a perfect example of what exegesis is all about. You have to understand the original language and the culture to get the true meaning, not just what the words literally say. Now, beyond just understanding words, theology also organizes big ideas. Think about it. The Bible is a library of 66 different books, written over thousands of years. It's a lot. Systematization is the tool that helps organize all of its teachings by theme, what it says about God, about humanity, about salvation. It creates a clear path through what could be a really complex forest of information. Okay, so we've got these principles. It's rational, it demands careful explanation, and it organizes ideas. But so what? How does this whole structured approach actually help us wrestle with a big, complicated concept? Well, let's put it to the test with a classic theological puzzle. Is God transcendent or immanent? On one hand, a totally transcendent God is one who exists completely outside our world. He's like a watchmaker who built the watch and then just left it to tick. The problem? God becomes distant, a spectator. But if God is purely immanent, meaning he's only inside the world, then you can end up limiting his power to just what's inside creation. You see how both views on their own kind of fall short? This is where the philosophy comes in. It doesn't force us to pick a side. The answer isn't a simple either-or. It's actually a much deeper, more profound both-and. Theology helps us wrap our minds around the idea that God is a sovereign being who is both at the same time. He's transcendent, totally beyond and outside of his creation. And yet, he is also immanent, active and present within it. He isn't stuck in one box or the other. So, after looking at its history, its rules, and a real-world example, let's pull all these threads together. What's the fuller, more complete definition of philology that we've been working our way toward? Let's start building it. Theologian Norman Geisler adds a really key element here, the idea of relation. He says, theology isn't just about studying God in a vacuum. It's about understanding his nature, his works, and crucially, his relationship with his creation, with us. And building on top of that, Louis Berkhoff emphasizes the structure of it all. See that key phrase? Systematized knowledge. This brings us right back to those 3 pillars. It highlights that this is an organized, disciplined field of study.
So, this brings us to our final, all-encompassing definition. Theology isn't just some passive study. It's the active process of discovery, the logical systematization of what you find, and the clear presentation of the truths about God. It's a dynamic, ongoing journey.
So you see, theology is so much more than a stuffy, academic word. It's a rational, structured, and deeply personal journey. And that leaves us with one final thought to ponder. If this is a journey to understand our relationship with the divine, where does your journey begin?